أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 30 will begin from ayah number 222. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ, and they ask you about menstruation. Al-Mahid is understood in two ways. First of all, the period itself, the menstruation itself, and secondly, the place or the time of menstruation, meaning is sexual intercourse allowed in the state or not. قُلْ, meaning, O Prophet ﷺ, say to the believers that huwa adha, it is a discomfort, meaning it is a state in which a woman is in great discomfort. Therefore, فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ, keep away from the women while they're menstruating, meaning do not have any sexual intercourse with them. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوهُنَّ حَتَّى يَطْهُرْنَ, and do not approach them, meaning do not have any sexual intercourse with them until they have become clean. And what does it mean by يَطْهُرْنَ? That until the bleeding stops. And once the bleeding stops completely, and it becomes completely clear, then what? فَإِذَا تَطَهَّرْنَ, then when they have purified themselves. And how is that done? By taking a bath, by ghusl. فَأْتُوهُنَّ, then you may approach them from where? Only from مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ, from where Allah has commanded, which is the vagina and nowhere else. Which teaches us that any other way or any other place of sexual intercourse or of fulfilling the sexual desire is incorrect. The only permissible way is the proper way, which is مَا أَمَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ التَّوَّابِينَ, Allah loves those people who repent, and He also loves those people who keep themselves clean. And the way that Allah has taught us is the way that is clean. نِسَاؤُكُمْ حَرْثٌ لَكُمْ, your women are a place of sowing of seed for you. نِسَاؤُكُمْ, your women. What does it mean by your women? Meaning your wife. She is حَرْثٌ لَكُمْ. Harth is from the root letters ha, ra, tha. And as we have learned earlier, that the word harth is used in two ways. First of all, it is used for the field that is prepared for sowing, that is prepared for cultivation, where crop is grown. And secondly, the word harth is also used for the crop itself, the plantation itself. So, نِسَاؤُكُمْ حَرْثٌ لَكُمْ, your women are a place of cultivation for you. What does it mean by this? Meaning a place of sowing the seed of your children. In this is a clear command that a person may only approach his wife in the vagina. Because it is only through that a woman becomes pregnant. Any other way, anal sex or any other way, does not make a woman pregnant. The only place is a place of fertility, which is the vagina. So, نِسَاؤُكُمْ حَرْثٌ لَكُمْ, your women are a place of sowing seed for you. So therefore, when you approach them in the proper place. Do not misuse them. They're not merely a sex object for the purpose of enjoyment. Now some women, when they hear this, that your women are a harth for you, they take this very offensively. And they consider this to be very derogatory and insulting. That women are being called harth, they're being called a field. The reality is that if you ask any farmer or any landowner how he takes his field, people take so much pride in the land that they own. Literally, feuds, tribal feuds, family fights, they occur from this, and it leads to murder as well sometimes. People are so possessive about their land. They will do anything to protect their land. And also, if you look at it, the farmer, he takes so much pride in his land. Even people who just own the lands and don't work in the fields, what do? They go just to see the fields. They go just to look at their land. Although they don't do anything by themselves in the land. Why? Because there is a sense of pride that you gain. Very satisfying feeling. So, therefore, women, when they have been called harth, this shows that a man has to take responsibility for the wife. Just as a field, a farmer has to take responsibility. He can't just come and go, enjoy whenever he wants and leave it whenever he wants. No. It's a full-time job. He cannot ignore it at all. Other people, they may leave. They go for a vacation 2-3 months. Okay, they come back and they start their work again. If you run a factory, you can do that. But a farm, a piece of land, you cannot just abandon it for 2-3 weeks or 2-3 months and expect that it will be perfectly fine afterwards. No. So this word that is used for women, it shows that a man has to take responsibility for the woman. And also if you look at it, that the woman has not been described as a garden. The woman has not been described as a garden. If you compare a garden with a field, what's the difference? A garden is just for the purpose of enjoyment. Just for the purpose of pleasure. That you go, take a stroll, you have some fun, and then you leave. Whereas a field, you have to go there, you have to work over there, you have to make sure the plants are going properly, you have to go at harvest time, you have to do so much work. Just imagine, if a person has a vegetable patch, how much he has to care for that vegetable patch. And just compare that with the whole field. So the woman is not just someone whom you can go and enjoy and have some fun for some time and then abandon her. No. She is a harth for you. You have to take responsibility. فَأْتُوا حَرْثَكُمْ. Therefore, approach your harth. Approach your field, meaning your place of cultivation. Meaning, the woman who is halal for you, you may approach her. How? أَنَّا شِئْتُمْ. However you wish. However you will. The word anna, grammatically, has several meanings. Or it can be understood in several ways. First of all, anna is understood as ism zarf. What does it mean by that? What does it mean by zarf? That refers to place or time. So anna means where, meaning place, or when, meaning time. So first of all, what does it mean? Where, whatever place, or secondly, whenever, at whatever time. Secondly, the word anna is also used in the sense of kaifa. What does kaifa mean? How. However. For example, we read in Surah Al-Baqarah, أَنَّا يُحْيِي هَذِهِ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. How will Allah bring this back to life after it has died? So, anna meaning how, in what way, in what manner. And sometimes the word anna is also used in the sense of min aina, from where. Over here, anna shi'tum is understood in 3 ways. First of all, anna is understood as zarf zaman and not makan. So what does it mean? Whenever. At whatever time. Whenever. So فَأْتُوا حَرْثَكُمْ أَنَّا شِئْتُمْ. Approach your harth, meaning your wife, أَنَّا شِئْتُمْ, whenever you wish, whenever you want. Meaning there is no restriction on time. There is no restriction on time. Obviously, when a person is fasting, or in the state of ihram, or when he is doing i'tikaf, then obviously it's understood he cannot have sexual intercourse with his wife. Otherwise, anna gives a meaning of whenever you wish, whenever you want. There is no restriction. Secondly, فَأْتُوا حَرْثَكُمْ أَنَّا شِئْتُمْ. Anna is understood as kaifa, meaning in whatever position. The place has been specified. And what is that place? The place of fertility, the vagina, the harth. And the position has been left open. A person may come from above, from below, from side, whatever he wishes. So فَأْتُوا حَرْثَكُمْ أَنَّا شِئْتُمْ. First of all, anna means whenever, meaning at whatever time. Secondly, it means in whatever position. But remember, anna does not mean wherever, meaning at whatever place. It does not mean at whatever place, because the place has been specified by the word harth. There is no choice with regards to that. Thirdly, it has also been said that anna shi'tum is understood as in whatever manner. in whatever manner. And some scholars have understood from this that in this is an indication to azl, which is to withdraw before ejaculation in the vagina. So فَأْتُوا حَرْثَكُمْ أَنَّا شِئْتُمْ. So basically we see that the place has been specified, but the position and times have been left open to choice. The position and time have been left open to choice. Now why has this been mentioned? First of all, to clarify that the place is specified, you may come in whatever position and you may come at whatever time, it is left open to you. Also we learn from several ahadith that the Sahaba who lived in Medina, who else lived in Medina with them? The people of the book, the Jews. And with every matter of religion, they would always look up to them, especially before Islam. That what do they say about it? So we learn that from a hadith that the Jews, they claimed that if a person had sexual intercourse with his wife from behind, meaning he approached it from her back, then the offspring would be cross-eyed. They would say that the offspring would be cross-eyed. So the Ansar, the Muslims, they would think that the only correct way was approaching the woman from the front, and they had superstitions about approaching the woman from a different position, from a different place. So therefore, this ayah was revealed, clarifying that the place is specified, but the position is left to you. It is your choice. There are no superstitions. And sometimes in different cultures, people have different superstitions about these things as well. That you're not allowed to do this or you're not allowed to do that, because then this will happen, because then that will happen. However, we see that there are no such realities. The place has been specified, the rest has been left to the person. وَقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. And send forward, put forth righteousness for yourselves. قَدِّمُوا is from the root letters qaf, dal, mim. And as you know, qadm means step. قَدَّمَ يُقَدِّمُ is to send something ahead, to send something forward. So قَدِّمُوا, send ahead, advance, send forward, لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, for yourselves. What does it mean by this? This is understood in several ways. First of all, it has been said that send some good deeds for yourselves as well. Meaning perform some good deeds as well. Because life is not just about pleasure. It's not just about sexual enjoyment. The relationship between a man and woman is not just a physical relationship. They should also focus on other good deeds. They should also focus on more important matters. This is a part of life which cannot be ignored, which is why clear guidelines have been given to us. However, the entire focus of a person should not just be on the physical relationship with his spouse. He should look beyond that as well. Similarly, a person should not just focus on sexually enjoying his spouse, but he should also focus on other things that he can do with the spouse. So قَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, send some amal salih for yourself as well. Focus on other things as well. Remember that fulfilling the sexual desire is not something that is condemned in Islam. In fact, when a person approaches his spouse, there is in fact reward for it, because a person is doing it through a halal way. However, we have been clearly told that a person should also focus on other things. Secondly, قَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ has been understood as that send some good deed for yourself before doing this act, before having sexual intercourse with your wife. And what is that good deed that a person should do before having sexual intercourse? Saying Bismillah. We learn from a hadith which is mentioned in Sahih Al-Bukhari that Ibn Abbas narrated that Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, لو أن أحدكم إذا أراد أن يأتي أهله قال بسم الله اللهم جنبنا الشيطان وجنب الشيطان ما رزقتنا فإنه إن يقدر بينهما ولد في ذلك لم يضره الشيطان أبدا. If any one of you on having sexual relations with his wife said, Bismillah, in the name of Allah, O Allah, protect us from shaitan, and also protect what you bestow upon us, which is of offspring from shaitan. Then if it is destined that he should have a child, then shaitan will never be able to harm him. So قَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, meaning قَدِّمُوا التَّسْمِيَةِ. Before, say Bismillah. Before doing this act, say Bismillah. Thirdly, it has been said that وَقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, send forward for yourselves, meaning, as I told you that the third opinion with regards to the previous statement, which was فَأْتُوا حَرْثَكُمْ أَنَّا شِئْتُمْ, the indication is to azl, which is to not ejaculate inside and to withdraw before that, which is an ancient way of contraception. Over here is an encouragement that the only purpose of sexual intercourse is not just pleasure, but you should also focus on having children. You should also focus on having children. Contraception is allowed, it is permissible where there is a need. However, the entire relationship should not just be about sexually enjoying each other, but it should be focusing on having children as well. So وَقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, and send ahead for yourselves. Send good deeds for yourselves. Or precede this act with Bismillah. Or focus on having children as well. Other scholars have also said that قَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ means that abide by the instructions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you with regards to this matter, and earn good deeds as well. Because when a person does this simple act, apparently a very indecent act, when he does this according to the instructions of Allah, then he gains reward. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, and all of you should fear Allah. How? What does it mean by taqwa over here? That fear Allah and do only that which He has allowed for you. Do only that which He has made permissible for you. Follow His commands and stay away from the prohibitions. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, fear Allah. Even with regards to fulfilling your sexual desire. Many times when it comes to taqwa, many times when it comes to fear of Allah, we think about not eating haram food, or not lying, or not backbiting, or other things. However, taqwa is also very important when it comes to the intimate relationship between a man and his wife. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا, and all of you should know that أَنَّكُمْ مُلَاقُوهُ, that you're going to meet Him. You're going to meet who? You're going to meet Allah. That eventually this life is going to be over and you are going to meet Allah. This life is not just about enjoyment. It's not just about fulfilling desires. It's not just about pleasure. But it's about preparing yourself for the hereafter. So know that you're going to meet Him. The word mulaqu is actually mulaquna. Mulaquna. And the noon has been dropped because mulaqu is connected with who. And mulaqun is a plural of mulaqin. And mulaqin is one who does liqa. What does liqa mean? Laqiya. To meet someone. So know that you're going to meet Him when? On the Day of Judgment. And when you will meet Him, He will recompense you for your deeds. So therefore, focus on that goal as well. Focus on that destination as well. وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and give good news to the believers. Give good news of what? Of reward in the hereafter. To who? To those people who believe in Him, those people who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's listen to the recitation.
نساؤكم حرث لكم فأتوا حرثكم أنى شئتم وقدموا لأنفسكم واتقوا الله واعلموا أنكم ملاقوه وبشر المؤمنين
the way the ayah ends. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّكُمْ مُلَاقُوهُ. Fear Allah and know that you're going to meet Him. Many times, when people are married, sometimes there are these injustices which are in the private life, in the most intimate life of a husband and wife. And these injustices are completely unknown to other people, which is why they cannot even interfere. Which is why they cannot even advise. And many times, the woman, she feels shy of speaking about these issues, of taking advice, or even talking to her husband about this. So what has Allah said? Every person should fear Allah, even with regards to giving the physical haqq of the husband or the wife. Every person should fear Allah. And also we see that Taqwa has been mentioned over here, and Hereafter has been mentioned over here, because both the husband and wife should not be so lost in each other that they forget their goal. They forget their akhirah. They forget their deen. Many times we see that people, before they get married, they're very religious, or they're very focused on their deen. They pray their salah on time. They never miss their fajr. They go to the masjid to pray their isha, or to pray their fajr. Or they pray qiyamul layl. They pray tahajjud sometimes. But as soon as they get married, then what happens? The entire focus goes on the spouse. And many times a person ends up ignoring the right of Allah. Many times a person ends up ignoring the rights of others. So fear Allah and remember that you're going to meet Him. And because you're going to meet Him, therefore, just because you love your spouse, does not mean that you should ignore everything else. Does not mean that you should put your deen behind now. That you should not give priority to your deen anymore. And this is the reason why, before the ayahs about the relationship between a husband and wife were mentioned, clearly it was stated that do not marry someone who is mushrik. Why? Because they call you to the fire. And if a person marries someone who is not that much in deen, then obviously his deen is going to be affected. He is going to end up compromising his deen. And many times when people are overcome by the love of their spouse, they end up ignoring their deen. So even in this relationship, fear Allah. And remember your final meeting with Him. Remember your meeting with Allah. We see over here that Allah does not shy of the truth, and He is clearly stated as to what is permissible and what is not permissible. And many times, when children, when they reach the age of puberty, or even when they're close to marriage, many times these issues, they're hidden. They're not spoken about, they're taboo, you don't talk about them, you don't mention them. And of course, a person should not become so casual that he mentions about these things all the time, he talks about these things all the time. However, it is important to educate. It is very important to educate. And if you notice, Allah has mentioned this in the Quran. In Surah Al-Baqarah, right in the beginning, in the second surah. Why? Because this is a part of life. And if we don't tell our children, if we don't tell our adults what is permissible and what is not permissible, then what are they going to do? They're going to end up making so many mistakes. And especially with the media today and everything else where there's absolutely no haya and there's no limits to what is right and to what is wrong. In this case, in this age today, we need to tell our young people as to what is allowed and what is not allowed. Obviously, it doesn't mean that you make them adults before they're actually adults. But if they question, if they ask, which I'm sure they will, then you can tell them in the most appropriate way. Look how everything has been described, but in a very appropriate way. The word hawth has been used. Figurative language has been used. It's clear, but it's not indecent. So in the same way, when we have to explain such concepts, we should be clear, but not indecent, not obscene. And this is the etiquette that we learn from the Quran. Depending on their age, depending on their mental level, depending on what they have been exposed to, you tell them only that much information. So, depending on the level of the child, depending on his mental age, you can tell him whatever is appropriate. Alhamdulillahi ala ni'matil Islam. The religion that Allah has given us, the teachings that Allah has given us, they're so complete that they're about every single aspect of our lives. Imagine if these instructions were not given, if these commands were not given, how much women would suffer. That even during menstruation she's not spared, that she's being used from every part of her body. So these commands that Allah has given, they protect the women and they make every act of ours an act of ibadah, as long as we follow the instructions of Allah. This is how Islam is a complete and comprehensive religion. Many times when it comes to learning the deen, when people learn the deen, when they become more religious, they think that what they have to abandon is their married life. Who they have to abandon is their spouse. However, we see that this is also a part of deen. This is also a part of something that perfects a person's iman. When a person marries, what does he do? He completes his iman. He perfects his iman. Because this is one way of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Because as human beings, we have physical needs, we have mental needs, we have spiritual needs, we have emotional needs. And this is something that fulfills a person's emotional and physical needs. And if these needs are not fulfilled, then there would be an imbalance. Then the personality is not balanced. And also we see that in some cultures, it's completely forbidden to sit next to your husband or to smile at your husband or even touch your husband. However, the laws that Allah has given, they are the best laws. But there are many studies done and it shows that if a woman has sexual intercourse during her period, she may develop cervical cancer. And it's extremely painful for the woman. It's an adha. And it's also an adha for the man, because the woman is not necessarily in a clean state at that time. So it is an adha, so keep away from the woman at this time. Of course, there is a limit of public display of affection. Obviously, there has to be haya, but what is permissible is permissible. Many consider that not getting married is a part of being very spiritual. However, it leads to an imbalance, which is why we hear of many stories in which the most pious people who are involved in religious organizations, they're the ones who end up molesting children, and they're the ones who are addicted to pornography and such things.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. I was thinking, this probably, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided us, giving the haqq of each other in intimacy, is so important. It is actually the root cause of many failed marriages. Many times, husband and wife, they don't know when they have difficulties and somebody asks them, what's your problem? Why aren't you getting along? They can't really pinpoint or identify what's going wrong, but actually, what's going on in the bedroom, not giving haqq of each other in the proper way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided, is the root cause of failing, is the root cause of being dissatisfied with each other. And that, develops into more and more discomfort, and eventually, the husband doesn't know what the wife is supposed to do or expected to do. And sometimes wives don't know what they're expected to do. And because until and unless you study the Quran in this way, many times culturally we're not educated. Even till the day of your marriage, you're not educated in a proper way as to, what your husband can do to you or not. So it is very important, and it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance that has brought us to this. So let's, inshallah, take it and understand it properly. And then pass it on to others, at least those who are going to get married soon. Inshallah.
But obviously, haya has to be considered when a person is discussing these things or talking about these things. Question is that if you marry someone who is lesser in the deen, then they will influence you. But how about you influencing them? The thing is that over here, what has been clearly stated is that a person of a different religion, especially of shirk, you are not going to get married to them at all, regardless. But when a person is a Muslim, and they are less religious, then obviously you have to make sure that they perform their fara'id, like for example the fard salah. Because if they don't pray salah themselves, then you as a woman, how can you struggle to get up for Fajr salah? Or if they want to go out to eat at Maghrib time, they don't care about Maghrib salah, how will you pray at that time? So of course it is going to affect your deen. And it's possible that you affect them as well. But really, what are the chances of you affecting them? Many times, women are the ones who get affected by their husbands many, many times. And I'm sure you've also seen the completely opposite cases in which the woman is the one who is affecting the man. That also happens. But it's up to you as to if you really want to take that risk. Do you really want to take that risk? So it's really up to the person. But of course, the conditions are clear that you should choose a person who has deen.